The elite restaurant buzzed with soft music, crystal glasses clinking under chandeliers worth more than most homes. Every eye was drawn to him, the CEO, the man who built an empire from dust. Wrapped in wealth, power, and a reputation colder than ice. But that night, something disrupted his perfectly calculated world. A little girl with striking blue eyes and golden hair stepped inside, her small footsteps echoing on the marble floor. She wasn't just any child, her gaze locked on him with a strange familiarity. The CEO felt an unfamiliar knot twist in his chest. Her innocence was piercing, but her eyes, they mirrored his own. She walked straight toward him, clutching nothing but courage. The millionaire, who thought he controlled every variable in life, froze in disbelief. He never knew, he never planned, but fate had brought her here. His daughter. The night was supposed to be flawless. The millionaire CEO, Alexander Grant, had just closed the deal of the decade. The entire boardroom had bowed to his vision, investors celebrated his genius, and competitors whispered his name with both fear and envy. Tonight, in the most exclusive restaurant of the city, he was the king among kings. Crystal chandeliers glowed above, casting golden halos across tables dressed in silk and glass. Waiters in black tuxedos floated like shadows, serving vintage wines and delicacies flown in from Paris. Alexander sat in the center, surrounded by business partners who toasted to his brilliance. His navy suit was tailored to perfection, his every movement sharp, controlled, and commanding. To the world, he looked untouchable, like a man who had mastered every part of his destiny. But destiny, he was about to learn, had a way of humbling even the strongest. It began quietly. A hush rippled through the entrance, subtle yet noticeable. Alexander turned his head slightly, his blue eyes narrowing. A child had walked in, a little girl, no older than 6 or 7. She was dressed simply, a white shirt and faded jeans, clearly out of place in such an elite setting. Yet, she didn't falter. Her golden hair shimmered under the chandelier, and her wide blue eyes scanned the room with surprising determination. People whispered, guests frowned. The Mater D rushed forward to stop her, but she stepped aside and continued walking, her tiny frame moving with quiet confidence. It wasn't the kind of confidence children were born with. It was the kind born out of something deeper, something that pulled her forward no matter who tried to block her path. Alexander's glass hovered midair. For the first time in years, he felt unsettled. Something about her face, her eyes pierced straight through his iron composure. And then it happened. She stopped right in front of him. The restaurant went silent. The little girl tilted her head, studying him. For a heartbeat, Alexander thought she might be lost, looking for someone else. But then she spoke. Her voice was small but steady. "Are you my father?" The words cut deeper than any dagger. Conversations died around him. His business partners stared, wide-eyed, the entire room holding its breath. Alexander's heart, so used to beating to the rhythm of ambition and deals, skipped violently. He forced a laugh, though his throat was dry. "You must be mistaken," he said, his tone colder than intended. But the girl didn't back down. She clutched a small silver locket hanging from her neck and opened it. Inside was a photograph, faded, worn by time. And there he was, a younger version of himself. Arm around a woman he had tried desperately to forget, her mother. The image hit him like thunder. Memories he had buried clawed their way back. A summer night, a woman with golden hair and the warmest laugh he had ever heard. The one he had walked away from when ambition called louder than love. He thought that chapter of his life was gone, forgotten, but here she stood, living proof that the past never really disappears. Gasps echoed across the restaurant as realization spread like wildfire. Alexander's hand trembled. His empire, his name, his carefully constructed world, all of it suddenly felt fragile. As if one small girl had the power to shatter it. And deep inside, under the layers of pride and denial, a single truth began to take root. She wasn't lying. She was his daughter. For a man like Alexander Grant, control was everything. His empire had been built on discipline, precision, and the unshakable belief that emotions were distractions. He knew how to silence investors, intimidate competitors, and outmaneuver board members, but nothing in his power-trained mind had prepared him for this tiny girl, staring at him as though the entire world depended on his answer. "Sir, should I remove her?" The Mater D whispered nervously. The girl's eyes never wavered. She clutched the locket to her chest, her voice trembling now but still unbreakable. "My mom told me. If I ever wanted to meet him, I should come here." Alexander's composure cracked. His business partners exchanged awkward glances, the whispers turning into waves of speculation. Billionaires didn't have secrets like this. Illegitimate children were scandals, and scandals destroyed reputations. He rose slowly from his chair, his towering figure casting a long shadow over her. "What's your name?" he asked. His tone clipped, though his pulse was pounding. "Lily," she said softly. The name cut deeper than he expected, because he remembered it. He remembered a conversation years ago, in a dimly lit apartment, when a woman had laughed and told him she loved the name Lily if she ever had a daughter. He had smiled, then smiled, and promised a future he never kept. He swallowed. "Where's your mother?" The little girl hesitated. Then, with heartbreaking honesty, she whispered, "She's gone." The air seemed to collapse around him. For a moment, Alexander felt his entire body go still, as though the words had robbed him of breath. "Gone? How could that be?" Lily's tiny voice cracked. "She got sick. She told me to be brave, to find you. She said you would know what to do." The restaurant no longer mattered. The stairs, the gossip, the prestige of it registered. All Alexander could hear was the echo of the past. He remembered her mother's laughter, the way she used to place her hand over his and say, "Alex, don't let money be the only thing you chase. Someday, you'll realize love is worth more." But he hadn't listened. He had walked away, convinced that success would fill the emptiness inside him. Now here stood the consequence of that choice. A child, his child, alone. "Mr. Grant," one of his investors asked carefully, breaking the silence, "is there something you'd like to explain?" The room's weight crashed back onto him. His empire, his image, his reputation, it all teetered on the edge of destruction. The ruthless part of him wanted to deny it, to dismiss her as a mistake, a fraud, an opportunist's trick. He could pay someone off, erase the whispers, and pretend this never happened. But then Lily spoke again. "I don't want your money," she said, almost defiantly, as though she had read his mind. "I just wanted to know my dad." Her words sliced through the boardroom armor he had worn for years. His throat tightened. Alexander turned to his partners, his voice sharp, almost defensive. "The meeting is over. Leave us." They hesitated, but no one argued. Within moments, the most powerful men in the city slipped out, leaving Alexander and Lily alone in a silence that was heavier than stone. He sat back down slowly, eyes locked on hers. "You can't just show up here and expect me to." He stopped himself. Because what, exactly, could he say? That it wasn't convenient. That he was too busy to acknowledge her existence. The girl's face crumpled. "You don't want me, do you?" The words hit him harder than any hostile takeover or betrayal ever had. In her eyes, he saw more than sadness, he saw the reflection of his own failures. Alexander's chest ached in a way that felt foreign. For years, he had lived untouchable, armored by wealth and ambition. But now, sitting across from Lily, he felt something he hadn't in a very long time: shame. He reached for his glass but stopped, realizing his hand was trembling. "Lily, I didn't know." Her small voice broke. "But you do now." And in that instant, the man who had conquered boardrooms and crushed rivals realized something terrifying. No amount of power could undo the past, and no empire was strong enough to rebuild what he had lost. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to try. For the first time in decades, Alexander Grant, one of the most feared and respected CEOs in the country, felt small. Power, money, dominance, prestige. None of it mattered as he sat across from Lily, a child whose innocence had already been scarred by loss. The restaurant had cleared out. The golden chandeliers still glowed above, but their warmth felt distant, hollow. Alexander leaned forward, his sharp jaw tight, his usually composed voice trembling. "Lily," he said quietly, "tell me about your mother." Her blue eyes softened. She pulled the locket from around her neck and placed it gently on the table. Inside was a photo. A younger Alexander, smiling, his arm wrapped around a beautiful woman. He stared at it for a long time, his chest tightening as memories he had buried clawed their way back. "She used to tell me stories about you," Lily whispered. "She said you were strong, smart, that you could do anything. She told me, if I ever felt alone, I should remember I had a father who would protect me." Alexander's throat closed. That woman, the one he left behind when ambition devoured his heart, had still believed in him enough to pass hope on to their daughter. Did she? He swallowed. Did she suffer? Lily nodded. She was sick for a long time. But she always smiled when she talked about you. Even when it got really bad. Her voice broke. Alexander gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white. Shame burned through him. He had been attending galas, closing billion-dollar deals, and sitting atop skyscrapers, while the woman he once loved was fading away, raising their daughter alone. He stood abruptly, pacing, his tailored suit suddenly feeling like a cage. I wasn't there. I should have been there. Damn it, his voice cracked mid-sentence. Lily watched him, wide-eyed but unafraid. But you're here now. The words stopped him cold. He turned, staring at her. She wasn't accusing him. She wasn't demanding retribution. She wasn't asking for money or power. She was simply asking for him. And that terrified him more than anything. The choice that night, Alexander didn't return to his penthouse. He didn't call his secretary. He didn't check his phone or answer the dozens of messages flooding in from investors demanding explanations. Instead, he walked Lily back to the modest apartment where she lived with her late mother's sister. The walls were cracked, the furniture old, but the space felt more alive than his million-dollar home ever had. Drawings covered the fridge. A small teddy bear sat on the couch. Lily showed him her room, tiny, cluttered, but filled with warmth. She picked up a stuffed rabbit with a missing ear. Mom fixed him 100 times, she said, hugging it close. Alexander stood in the doorway, watching her. Something inside him shifted. For years, he had measured success by skyscrapers and stock markets. Now, staring at his child, he realized he had been bankrupt in the ways that mattered most. He knelt down Lily. His voice wavered. I don't know how to do this. I've spent my whole life chasing the wrong things, but if you'll let me, I want to try. I want to be your father. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't from sadness. She nodded, a small smile breaking through. The beginning of redemption. The days that followed weren't easy. Alexander's name exploded across headlines. Secret daughter discovered. Millionaire CEO's hidden past shocks industry. Investors panicked. Competitors mocked him. Shareholders demanded explanations. But for the first time, Alexander didn't care. He traded gala dinners for school lunches, boardrooms for bedtime stories, conference calls for soccer practice. It wasn't seamless. He stumbled, he made mistakes, and sometimes his instinct to control and dominate got in the way. But every time he faltered, Lily's small hand in his reminded him of what mattered. And, slowly, painfully, beautifully, the hardened CEO became a father. The final test months later, Alexander sat once again in an elite restaurant. The same chandeliers glowed above. But this time, he wasn't surrounded by investors or politicians. He was sitting across from Lily, her laughter filling the air as she told him about her day at school. One of his former rivals approached, smirking. Grant, he sneered. You've gone soft. Trading empires for playdates. You'll lose everything. Alexander smiled calmly, resting a hand on Lily's shoulder. No, he said firmly. I've gained everything. For the first time in his life, he truly meant it. Life is fragile, unpredictable, and often cruel. Alexander Grant had everything money could buy, yet he was empty, blind to what truly mattered. It took one innocent child to shatter his illusions and teach him that love is the only empire worth building. And maybe, just maybe, this is a reminder for all of us. Success means nothing if it costs you the people you love. Don't wait until it's too late. Hold them close, forgive, and choose love before pride steals it away. Because sometimes, redemption comes when you least expect it. The millionaire CEO thought he had everything: power, money, and respect. But what he never knew was that he had a daughter. A little girl who carried his smile, his blood, and a story of heartbreak he had ignored for years. One evening, inside an elite restaurant, fate brought them face to face. What began as a shocking revelation soon turned into the most emotional journey of his life. A journey of guilt, redemption, and love. This story reminds us all. Success is empty without family. Watch till the end for a lesson you'll never forget.